All right, guys, now I'm gonna keep this here as a reference, all right, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys an angle to solve, or we'll solve an angle together. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this here, and let's say if I wanted you guys to solve sine, right, of 120 degrees. All right, now remember when we were drawing on the your actual graph itself, we're going to hit select 120 degrees. So remember, this is 0 slash 360. Okay, you have 90 here. Okay, you have 180 here, and then you have 270 here. Okay, now what we're gonna do here, you're gonna figure out where 120 degrees lies. So you're gonna draw, a circle here, 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 and it probably like right here. All right, so 30 degrees past 90, so you're gonna something like right here. Okay, which this is 120 degrees. Okay, so now remember I told you have to figure out what your reference angle is, right? What you're trying to solve for. All right, so now we're going to take, it's in the second quadrant, so the formula of the second quadrant should be 180 minus your reference angle in angle 2, all right, equals your, the angle in quadrant 2 equals your reference angle. All right, so therefore it should be 180 minus 120 equals 60. 180 minus 120 equals 60, so therefore this angle here, right, is a 60-degree angle. Okay, now what we have now, if you want, we can draw it out, right? You can draw it out here. This is what it looks like. Okay, now remember, everything here is a negative value, okay, and this is a positive value because y values are going up here. This remains positive here, but the x value here would remain negative. It would be actually turned negative, but nothing happens to the hypotenuse in this case. All right, so now let me go ahead and erase this and then continue to solve. So we know our reference angle is 60. All right, so let's continue there. All right, so now we're going to try to find, now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and plug in the value what we're looking for. All right, so what you're going to do here, you're going to see 60. Now we're going to try to solve now. All right, so at the point of view of 60 degrees, all right, now we know it's going to be 60 degrees here. You're going to get 1. Well, it's going to be a negative 1. All right, negative 1. Okay, and then opposite, you're going to get square root of 3. Okay, so now, remember what I told you. If it's adjacent to 60, it's 1, but in this case, it's going to be a negative 1 because it lies on the negative side of the quadrant. All right, and then if it's opposite of 60, it's still square root of 3. Okay, now you're going to look at it like this, is trying to find sine. Remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. All right, so you're going to take negative 1. Okay, I'm sorry, not negative 1. I apologize, y'all. Opposite, right? So opposite of 60 is the square root of 3. All right, so we're going to get square root of 3, okay, over your hypotenuse, and your hypotenuse is what? I'm sorry, guys, in this case, it's actually is 2, okay? So you're going to get square root of 3 over 2, all right? That is sine, okay? That is sine of 120 degrees, all right? You're going to get square root of 3 over 2, okay? Now, if you wanted to find cosine of 120, you would do the same thing, but obviously you're going to use cosine value, okay? So this is sine here. Now if I wanted to solve for cosine, all right, you're going to do the same math, okay? So what you're going to do, you're going to take adjacent now, but this is going to be adjacent, so it ends up being negative 1 over hypotenuse, which just happens to be 2, all right? So if you look at 120 degrees, sine of 120 degrees equals square root of 3 over 2, but cosine of 120 degrees equals negative 1/2, because you're looking here at this angle here, it's giving you 60 degrees. So we have to do it based off this measurement. All right. All right, guys, let me give you another example. And let me say, what if I give you guys sine of, let's try 150, right? A sine of 150. That's a terrible line. There we go. Oh, gosh. Okay, there we go. So sine of 150, and I say I want to sine of 150 degrees. Okay, now sine of 150 degrees, you're going to go ahead and try to, remember I told you, label your points, obviously. I mean, if you already know them, I mean, that's fine, but, just in case, just for referencing, label your points out. Now, I want to go ahead and find what is sine of 150 degrees. So you're going to go ahead and draw 150 degrees on the circle. So you're going to go 1, this is 90 here. All right, you're going to keep going, and that's about to be like right there, give or take. Okay, now, like I said, it is quadrant 2. Okay, so you're going to take 150 minus whatever angle that you had here, which happens 180 minus 150. Now 180 minus 150 gives you 30 degrees, right? So therefore this angle here is 30 degrees. All right, so now we can actually draw our triangle here. Okay, now I'm gonna erase this here. Now, remember what I told you, we're gonna solve for 30 degrees, right? At the angle of 30 degrees. So once again, if you look here, your angle of 30 degrees, wherever that you see is adjacent to it, it's actually gonna be square root of 3. But remember, if it's on this side of the quadrant, every x value becomes a negative, all right? Being that your y values are going up, it's going positive, all right? So what's opposite of 30 degrees? Remember here, guys, the opposite of 30 degrees, we're looking at 1. Okay, so 1 here, and then 2 always stays as your hypotenuse. Okay, now it's asking for sine, and like I said before, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Your opposite of 30 degrees is 1. Okay, and then your hypotenuse is 2, right? So it's opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, 1 over 2. All right, so therefore sine of 150 equals 1 over 2. All right, now if I wanted to solve for cosine 150, remember cosine of 150 is adjacent over hypotenuse, is adjacent over hypotenuse, right? And then we know that adjacent to 30 is negative square root of 3, right? Negative square root of 3, okay? And then obviously the hypotenuse is still 2. So therefore this is your answer, right? So if you look at your XY your XY plot chart on your unit circle, you would see that, remember, x values are cosine, so you would get negative square root of 3 over 2, comma, 1/2. That is sine and cosine of 150, but in the term, the actual degree 150, this is your x value, which is cosine, and this is your y value, which is sine. Okay, let's try 240. Okay, now 240, 90, 180, 270. Okay, 0/360. Okay. All right, so we're looking for 240. So 240 will look all over here. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so 240 is going to be probably right here. Okay. All right. Now, this angle here is 240 degrees. All right. Now, remember, it's in quadrant 3. So whatever quadrant 3 is, it's your angle, 240 minus 180. Right? Okay. So your angle was 240. Okay, now 240 minus 180, you're going to get 60 degrees. All right. All right, so you're looking at this angle specifically right here, right there. This is what it's going to look like, right? So this angle here, right here, is 60 degrees. Okay, now if you're looking at it from this point, obviously this is your adjacent side, all right? So this would be 1, okay? But it's a negative 1, obviously, all right? And this side here, opposite, right? Opposite of 60 degrees, you're going to get the square root of 3. And this always stays as 2. Okay, but remember, everything here is a negative value. Everything in quadrant 3 becomes a negative value. Okay, I'm sorry, let me write it over here. Sine 240. That's what we're trying to figure out. Okay. All right, now we've come to the understanding that angle is 60 degrees. Now sine of 60 degrees is what? All right, now we said sine is opposite over hypotenuse. All right, so we're going to take the opposite of where 60 degrees is. You're going to get negative square root of 3. Now, what is our hypotenuse? It's always going to be 2. Now, your hypotenuse is always going to remain a positive value. Okay, and there you go. So, therefore, sine of 240 equals negative square root of 3 over 2. And if, now, let's say cosine of 240. Okay, now we know cosine of 240 is adjacent, okay, over hypotenuse. Now adjacent to 360 in this case, I'm sorry, 360. Adjacent to 60 degrees here is negative 1. Okay, so cosine 40, okay, is negative 1. And then your hypotenuse is still 2. All right, so there you go. So then your XY chart, all right, your XY value would be negative 1/2. And then it would be negative square root of 3 over 2. All right, very simple, right? Super simple. Like I said, it depends on where you're drawing your angles, right? And just remember, as you draw here, it comes up this way, okay, to this 180 line. It doesn't go this way, all right? It comes up this way, all right? So that is basically interesting, well, the examinations of 30 degree and 60 degree. All right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and try to solve something a little more advanced for you guys. And I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys this value here. Let's say I want you to solve secant of 300 degrees. All right, so let me just reiterate some things to you guys before we kind of go forward into this. Now, just remember, secant of any theta value, remember from before, secant is the opposite of cosine, so it's gonna be 1 over cosine. all right? And then cosecant is the opposite of sine, so it's 1 over sine. And then cotangent here is 1 over tangent, all right? But just so you guys know that it's also going to represent cosine over sine, because in the original here, tangent over here equals y over x. Now here is just going to be an x over y when you solve your value, right? But in this case, we're just going to go ahead and try to solve for secant first of 300 degrees. We're going to go ahead and try to draw our graph here. All right, draw a graph here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and draw a graph. You draw here, 300 should be like right here. Okay, that's a little bit too far out actually. Right there. Okay, so 300 is right here. Now remember I told you it's actually going to look like this. The formula should be 360 minus whatever angle you got, which is 300. Now this equals a value of 60. Now in these examples, obviously I'm giving you 30, 60, 90, but it's the same way to perform all of them. All right, whether it's 45, 45, 90, or 30, 60, 90, it's the same process to solve your formula. All right, well in this case, it's going to be 60 degrees is here, right? So once I draw my line down here, I keep going this way. There we go. All right, so this is 30 degrees here. Now remember, everything opposite of 60, square root of 3. But now here's the very important thing. It's represented by y here. Since it's traveling down, my values are negative. Okay. Everything adjacent to 60 is the value of 1. Okay. It stays positive because all your once you cross this part of the origin, quadrant 1 here, everything becomes a positive here. All right, and then like I said, your hypotenuse stays the same, which is just 2, the value of 2. All right, so now we want to go ahead and solve this function now. Let me go ahead and erase this here so I can continue to solve it for you. All right, now you're going to get cosine of 300, right? Now cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Now adjacent to 60 degrees is 1, okay? Okay, so let me write it here. Okay, all right. And then the hypotenuse is 2. But remember, secant is the opposite of sine, so it's flipped actually. So instead of just keeping it like this, you're going to flip it. So it becomes 2 over 1, which just rationalizes to 2. All right. So secant of 300 degrees equals the value of 2. Guys, let's go back to 240. All right, now I'm supposed to give you guys cosecant of 240. All right. Remember, this equals 1 over sine, right? Because cosecant equals 1 over sine. All right, so basically you're trying to find sine, right? So you just replace it as sine 240. Okay, now it's the same thing here. You draw your graph. That is another graph. Don't worry about it. All right, 240 degrees. You draw your line. Boom, 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 boom. It'll give me like right over here, somewhere here. Okay. Okay, now 240 minus 180 is 60 degrees again. Okay. Now, we know that this angle here is 60 degrees, okay? That means when you draw your line down here, okay, this angle right here is 30 degrees, okay? Now, opposite of 60 degrees is square root of 3. This value becomes negative because your values are traveling negative, okay? This remains as 2. And then this also becomes negative because your values are negative here. All right, so now if you wanted to solve continuously, remember I told you it's 60 degrees. Remember sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. All right, so opposite is negative square root of 3 over 2. All right, well, opposite is negative square root of 3. Hypotenuse is 2. Okay, so what you're going to get here is negative square root of 3 over 2, your value of 2. Okay, so that is considered cosecant. But remember, it's cosecant, so you have to flip it, right? So if I flip this value now, you're going to get negative 2 over the square root of 3. Okay? Negative 2 over the square root of 3. All right, but remember now, guys, this is very important. It is a radical in the denominator. So now I have to go ahead and simplify this function or rationalize this function. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take the negative 2 and then the square root of 3 here. I want to multiply by the square root of 3, both top and bottom. Okay? Now these become the square root of 9. Okay, and then you just multiply this by this. So you're going to get negative 2 square root of 3 over the square root of 9, right? This becomes the square root of 9, this here. Okay, now square root of 9 is what? 3. So your final answer should be negative 2 square root of 3 over 3. That is your final answer for cosecant of 240 degrees.
What's good? Yo, dog, understand me, say? Understand me attack.